I admit that some mistakes were made. Hello, welcome back to 3 Delirium. My name is AJ, and happy Thanksgiving! So, just like last week, instead of making some sort of model that would just take up space, I want to print something that will improve something else, something that I'm already thankful for. Well, I'm thankful for my hobby that I have. I would use paintbrushes and paint to then go over the plastic models that I, for example, would have in this box here. This is kind of my ongoing projects box, but underneath here we have the paints themselves. Now, at the moment, I just have this container of a mess of paints, but I would like to organize it or display it in some way. Maybe even like swap these two around. Maybe my ongoing box can go in this little shelf instead, and I can have my paints on the top. So let's see what we can find, and we'll get started. A paint rack for displaying paints is a very common item that I can almost guarantee someone else has made already. So off to the internet I go. My first stop will be Thingiverse. Thingiverse is a repository for 3D prints. Thingiverse is a fantastic resource. It's full of free downloadable files shared by a community that is out to just kind of help the 3D printing community as a whole to thrive by getting files out there that we can all share around. Now, the one downside of Thingiverse is that it is full of almost everything, and it doesn't do a very good job of organizing that very well. So I was looking for just a paint rack, so I needed to search for it, and then I can scroll down through to find what I'm looking for. This one looks like it'll do just fine. These are exactly the kinds of pots of paints that I'm looking to store. The storage looks pretty even, satisfies my OCD, and they have interchangeable sections. So I have ones that have even, odd, even, and others that are odd, even, odd. So with the file downloaded and it's already done, so I just kind of drop it into my slicing software to get it prepared for the printer. Now, this big red background indicates that the file is far too big for my printer. So as you can see, it kind of overhangs on the edges of my build plate here. So I can use the tools of my slicing software to slice the model in half. So I'll lean it on its side, and I can use the bottom tool there to give it a slice. It looks like the middle point that I would be looking for anyway is exactly the default whenever we're clicking on the slice section, the split section, sorry, splitting in the slicing software. But then when I go to finalize the print itself, there seems to be some sort of fault and glitch. So I'll have to take the file into a modeling software to hopefully try to finish it. I'm also not a big fan of how much wasted space there is in the back of this model, like that could be easily left out to save filament, maybe even save time when I print it. Here we are once again in Tinkercad. I would say one of the easiest softwares for making simple shapes, and with my plan of just taking a big chunk out of the back of this file, I won't need much more than just simple geometric designs to carve out of the back. So I can take a large shape in Thingiverse, turn it into a void instead of a solid shape, and then just combine it with the file that I already have. Hopefully, this process will also allow me to re-render the file itself, as in allow myself to download it from Tinkercad here in a way that might fix my glitching error from earlier when I tried to use the slicing software. So I'm hoping this can provide me with killing two birds with one stone, as they say. And with that done in Tinkercad, all I need to do now is to just download the file and then drop it back into my slicing software. I'll slice it in half again and then try to render how it will look in my printer. Actually, this looks really solid, and it does seem to have the effect that I was hoping for, fixing my glitching issue as well as
taking a shorter amount of filament to print. It does look like it's going to spend the exact same amount of time that I was going to be doing earlier anyway, but at least this time I'm going to be saving a little bit of filament. Another very convenient aspect of using this slicing software is that I can take this model that I know works perfectly and just mirror it left to right to then have the exact same shape for the other side to just glue them together. Now that I have the first complete rack done, it's time to start making the second rack. And it seems like I have an even worse glitching issue from earlier. I've already taken the time to carve out the back of this one to hollow out the inside so that I'm wasting less filament, but it does not seem to have helped. But now I just need to change the orientation of how it's sitting as it prints, but it will use a bit more support material, which means the end quality might not be quite as good, but at the same time, it's a practical item. I don't really need it to be the most beautiful paint rack. My paints will be stored just fine anyway. This project has been a bit of Murphy's Law at its finest.
Well, it's taken a few days, a few mishaps, but I finally have what I think will be my complete rack for my paints. So I had to print all of them in half sections. So I had 4 halves here, and they go together. This one is already glued right through the middle, and these ones will fit right on the other side. Just like so. Excellent. And now I can transfer my paints from the box to the rack. It makes a lot more room on the desktop for when I'm working, and I can easily access and see which paints I'm looking for. I would call this a success, even so much to the point where I might even print another rack for some leftover paints you can see in the box right down here. Well, I'll see you next week here on 3 Delirium, where we all can hallucinate about the possibilities of 3D printing.